Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Good evening. Is the voice
Evening.
clear? Is the voice clear? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine then. Right, then we will go ahead. So today we are starting something new, but a very simple chapter. Let me tell you in the beginning. This is a very simple chapter. First of all, this chapter is political aspects. Like there are certain theories. There are certain theories with respect to political aspects. Let me tell you what is most important in this, and then we will go ahead with the, maybe you can take some notes also. What are the things that I am expecting from this topic? Okay, the topic is political aspects, paper number 2. Right, the first thing is I would like to divide this topic into two aspects. Traditionally certain things have been asked. At present, what can we expect? Okay, there are two things I would like to divide this into. Traditionally, like between 2013 to 2000, maybe 17, what was asked, okay, from the time that I appeared to 2017. And from 2018 onwards, there has been a very good change. Traditionally, what used to be asked is heartland and rimland theory. Heartland and rimland theory. In connection with, now this is a part of paper 1. Remember, heartland and rimland theory are parts of paper 1. But this in connection with Indian political geography. This was asked as a part of paper 2. How heartland and rimland theory can be connected with the international bilateral relations of India. How heartland and rimland theories, and maybe something that is related with India and Europe, bilateral ties, and what are the future mineral aspects ന്ന് വെച്ചിട്ട് എങ്ങനെയാണോ ഈ രണ്ട് കൺട്രീസും എങ്ങനെ mineral aspects, what sort of mineral exchange is going on between them, what sort of trade aspect is going on between them, what are the geographical factors which unify India and some of the European countries. Why is Indian Ocean region, Indian Ocean Rim, we call it as the Indian Ocean region, IOR region, facing so much international influence, maybe from countries like United States and countries from China? Why is Indian Ocean region important for US? Why is Indian Ocean region important for China? How is that going to influence India? So such questions broadly, international affairs related question തന്നെയാണ്, but you have to write it geographically. How can you write it geographically? You have to bring in certain theories. Are you getting me? You have to bring in certain theories, um, so that your answer becomes a geographical answers like heartland theory, rimland theory. Or you can bring uh, Rachel's organic state theory. Organic state theory. These are the traditional topics. Or finally, you can bring the Mahan's theory of theory of influence of sea power. Why is always China trying to encircle India? Like it is trying to get some ports in Africa, it's trying to get some ports in Saudi Arabia, trying to get some ports in Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Myanmar. Why is this encircling of India happening? In fact, once it was strings of pearls theory was asked in one of the papers. So such things, what is the advantage with regard to sea power geographically? Such things you can expect from this paper. Okay, so traditionally ചില തിയറീസ് ഒക്കെ ചോദിച്ചിട്ട് ഓർ തിയറീസിനെ ലിങ്ക് ചെയ്തിട്ടുള്ള ഇന്ത്യൻ ആസ്പെക്ട്സ് Indian geography question ആണ് ചോദിക്കുന്നത്. This is traditional aspect. At present, things have changed. Let me try to switch on my video for some time. Right. Right. So let's say, what was I tell you? Yeah. So the point that I'm trying to make here is, traditionally there are some topics. Traditionally there are some topics like heartland. See if there is any problems with regard to my audio. Just let me know. All right. Just let me know. We can resolve it. Maybe I have to switch on this video or something. Okay, so traditionally, usually theories with regard to some international affairs and how is India related to that international affairs using the explanation of certain hardcore theories. Okay, this is one way of approaching it. The second way is number 4, asking India specific question. This is very important. Asking India specific question like what? Why is the northern states are very economically poor economically poor when compared to the southern states? Why is there a north south divide in terms of India? That's one question. Second question is, why are what's the problem with emergence of new states? Many states are asking for splitting from the parent state. Yes, have you heard of it? So there are many states, like for example in UP, there are many divisions in around Madhya Pradesh. There is a demand for division. In Tamil Nadu also there is a demand for division. Let's divide Tamil Nadu into two aspects. Like they wanted to form something called as Kongu Nadu. So the question can be, why do some states want to split from the parent states? What is the advantage politically, administrative aspects, economically? What are the advantages with respect to formation of such new states? These are all the questions that can be asked from traditionally how this chapter has been approached by UPSC. Right. At present, one thing that I am expecting is, at present, there can be a question about some sort of river interlinking vachita. There can be a question, river interlinking vachita. There can be a question about interstate river disputes. Interstate river disputes. Or there can be a question about, cooperative federalism versus constitutional aspects of federalism. So here you have to write it like how, not write it in the form of a polity answer, write it in the form of a geographical answer. You have to write it like how, if we cooperate together, how there will not be any regional disparity. How, because of dedicated freight corridors, many states are interlinked. Therefore, goods can transport from one place to another. It will lead to development of growth centers. I'm going to throw geographical terms here and there. There is no hard and fast way of writing answers for these things. It's just now your way of improvisation. See, it's like maybe or rough it, if I have to explain, it can be like this. A musical teacher, let's say a music teacher is there. She can teach you, like he or she can teach you what is the raga of that particular song. But that gamakam that you add in between, the small improvisations that you can add in between, that comes with some sort of experience, and that comes with naturally, quite naturally. So these are the things you have to compulsorily, or I would say forcefully, bring geographical in your ഇങ്ങനെ കോഓപ്പറേറ്റീവ് ഫെഡറലിസം കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ ഫെഡറലിസം അങ്ങനെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് കാണുമ്പോൾ general tendency എന്താണ്? You will write a question, you will write the answer as if it is a polity answer. No, you should bring some one or other geographical terms into your answer. The third thing is, the third very important thing is, you can expect a question with regard to Ukraine crisis and how India is involved in it. How India is balancing um, Quad. I am sure you heard of Quad, right? Quad, the grouping. How is India balancing Quad in one hand along with Russia on the other hand? So Quad is something that's made up of your Japan, Australia, USA, then your India. So that's the Quad grouping. Now, how is India balancing in the present day world, in the post Cold War era? How is India balancing Quad and Russia together? And then there can be questions about, fourth one is the most important one, border disputes with China. Okay, so broadly, these are getting repeated again and again. So you can expect constitutional federalism and how it is creating regional imbalances. So you can expect some questions on this aspect with regard to this chapter. All right, let's get there. It was a small introduction. I just wanted to make clear that what sort of questions can be asked from this particular chapter. All right, can we go to the chapter now? Yes. What's your test tomorrow? Medieval India still history is continuing. Modern India, no, is it still medieval?
Medieval India.
Okay, so let's go to the chapter. Let me quickly switch off my video. Right, so let's start this chapter first of all. With respect to federalism and with respect to geographical federalism, have the heading as geographical federalism. Two things you have to know. Two things you have to know. India is a country. We have so many states in this country. Geographically, there is a unification with respect to these states. What do you mean by that? Like, let's say that there is a common culture. We have a common culture. This culture is unifying India, right? This culture is unifying India. Indian culture is a soft power. Have you heard of this term? Soft power. It's called as a soft power. So I'm giving you an example that Indian culture is a soft power which unifies India. There are some things which splits India also. There are something like currency. Currency is another thing. That's another thing. Indian currency, the rupee. That is also something that unifies India. It's a unifying factor. Some things which splits India, maybe language. Language from one state to another, the language changes. So language can be a differentiating factor. Climate can be a differentiating factor. One half of the country is a tropical, is in the tropical belt completely, whereas the other half is in the temperate belt. So I can say that climate is a differentiating factor, language is a differentiating factor. Now, those factors which tries to unify India in terms of a single federal nation, as a single federal nation. That we call it as a centripetal force. Centripetal force. Any force, we call it as a centripetal force when it is attracting or unifying a particular set of people, attracting a set of people or unifying a set of people. The other one, that is the differentiating one, is what we call it as the centrifugal force. So centripetal force na parayamo, like a common thing that is unifying the entire country. I repeat, a common force, a common factor, a common force which unifies the entire country, that we call it as a centripetal force. Example, Indian culture, currency. What is the centrifugal force? Anything which is making us to separate from each other. Any force which is making us to separate from each other, that is your centrifugal force. So examples we have given here. Now, the idea is, if centripetal force is greater than centrifugal force, if centripetal force is greater than centrifugal force, then what will happen? Then the nation state will be very, very strong. The idea of nation state, we are one nation. The idea of integration will be very, very strong. On the other hand, if centrifugal force is greater than centripetal force, then the states will exist as individual states and not as a nation. Then the states will exist like individual entities, individual units, and not like a single nation. Okay. How centripetal force and centrifugal forces are interacting in a country, that decides the federal feature of that particular country. I repeat, how or in what quantity or in what measure these two forces are interacting is more on or less on. Depending on that, we can say how united a country will be or how disunited a country is going to be. So now let's take down what are the different types of centripetal forces existing in any given nation. So in with respect to India, we'll analyze centripetal forces with respect to India. Number one, what are the forces which attracts India together? First is some of the geographical or geophysical phenomenon. Some of the geophysical phenomenon. Like if I'm talking about the oceanic marine coast or the marine coast that covers in the three sides of India. So that makes us or that unites us. That unites us. Why do I say that unites us? Because suppose let's say that there is a cyclone. Let's say that there is some coast, wherever we find a coast, it's a kind of a unifying factor. It's kind of a unifying factor. Coast is not going to divide us. Suppose there is a war. Suppose let's say that China is attacking us through marine coast, then that every navy and the coastal guard will guard this boundary, and that's kind of a unifying factor. Ports are seen both in the western corridor as well as in the eastern corridor, and that's another unifying factor. So oceanic coast that we see That kind of unites us because that separates India from its neighboring international countries. So in a way, it separates us from the other countries, and in a way, because of that separation, we will find ourselves united against the external powers. Because of that separation, we will find ourselves united against against the external powers. The second thing is Himalayas. Himalayas that bounds us in the northern side again separates us from the rest of the world. Himalayas that is present on the northern boundary, it bounds us and it separates us from the other international countries. It prevents the cold Siberian winds from entering into the country. Therefore, in a way, it tries to protect the entire country from the onslaught of the cold winds. In a way, that is also uniting us. Okay, so these are some of the unifying factor. Why do I say that is a unifying factor? Because these factors separates us from our neighbors. So suppose let's say that we are staying in a home and our home does not have a compound wall. And തൊട്ടടുത്ത് ഇന്നൊരു മറ്റു നെയ്ബർ ഉണ്ട്, അതിനടുത്ത് മറ്റൊരാളുണ്ട്. So what happens is all the three of us, all the three neighbors, we will feel united. We will feel like uh, they are a part of us. But suppose let's say that we have a wall, a compound wall between all of the three individual houses. Then we will feel that we are separate, they are separate. So that's a kind of the thing that has been brought about with regard to oceans and Himalayas, because they separate us from our neighbors like China, Bangladesh, Myanmar, and so on, Sri Lanka, etc. All right. Now the second thing is culture. See, whatever you can say, Indian culture, we do not say Kerala culture, Tamil culture. Yes, we say that. But for an outsider, for someone from maybe from America, if they're looking at us, or someone from Sri Lanka who is looking at us, they will say that it is the Indian culture. It is the Indian culture, right? So culture is something, though it separates us in the form of linguistically, in the form of religion wise, culture is a common thing that we share. More or less, culture is a unifying factor with respect to the entire country. Third one is number three is climate in the form of monsoons. Climate in the form of monsoons. The every part of India by the arrival of monsoons. Agriculture, which is a basic thing in India, is dependent on the monsoons. So monsoons, they bind India in the form of a climatic region. So climate is also another unifying factor. Climate is also another unifying factor. Now understand something. Small caution I would like to give you. Caution that I would like to give you. These are the same factors which we will write in a different manner with respect to centrifugal forces. These are the same things which we will write in a slightly different aspect, because not everything is like a black and white. Adina or gray shade. So suppose let's say culture is a unifying factor, I'm telling you here, but there, when I'm talking about centrifugal forces, I will say language is a differentiating factor. So it's like that. What is a unifying factor in one side will act as a separating factor in one aspect, in one way. All right. So that's something that you need to understand. Number four, historically, this is most important one. In fact, historical reasons. In fact, this is the most important reason that why we united as a nation. Our independence struggle, it unified us against the external struggle. British colonialism unified us. Indian freedom struggle unified us. The countless number of invasions that we as a nation experienced from starting from Mughals, starting from the Aryans itself, you can say. So there have been numerous invasions, and that all of that has unified our country, unified our country. And finally, some of the post-independence factors. What are the post-independence factors? What are the post-independence factors? Suppose, let's say, we have a common currency, a common market, common principles of taxation, unifying factor, which is your constitution, which says one man, one vote, and which says, what is that? Citizenship, your citizenship, one citizenship, or you can say single citizenship. So these are constitutionally guaranteed. Certain things are constitutionally guaranteed that every Indian is going to be treated equally, and that is something that is given in your constitution. That is given in your constitution. Then I have my administrative factors, like all India services, your IAS services, all India services, that unifies people, So these are different things which act as a centripetal force. Now let's move on to centrifugal forces. As I've explained to you before, whatever we have written here, slightly the twist that we'll be writing here. For example, the first thing is physiographic features. Yes, there is a similarity in terms of different physiographic features in the country, but in spite of it, I have a plateau. I have a peninsular plateau. I have my northern plains. I have my northern plains. I have my deserts. Very important. I have my deserts. What will I say? Northern plains, because of the excessive fertility, people here are well to do, they are practicing good agriculture, they are economically well flourished. And a deserts, I will say that because of the poor environmental conditions, transport and communication is not possible in the desert. Therefore people feel secluded in the desert and the northeastern parts of the India. Therefore, physiographic condition is a separating factor. Physiographic condition is a differentiating factor. Are you understanding the small difference between how I am explaining this point and how I explained this point? Are similar. Here I'm talking from the whole all India perspective, but here within India, how the physical features are playing a detrimental role. That I'm talking. Are you understanding the small difference? Is there any doubts here till now? Till now, is there any doubts? All right.
Okay, right. So, right. Let's see. Physiographic features. Number two, Number 2, monsoons. I am going to start with the next thing that we have written, which is monsoons. Monsoons എന്താ പറയുന്നത്? Yes, monsoons unify India. In fact, the entire um, agricultural cycle. Just a minute, I will come right now. So I will say, yes, monsoons will link the whole country, but there will be regional variations. There will be regional variations. Kerala is receiving too much of rainfall. Rajasthan is receiving 20 centimeters of rainfall. Kerala is getting 250 centimeters of rainfall. There is a huge temporal variability and spatial variability, because of which there is a lot of temporal variability and spatial variability, which is creating regional disparities, in terms of agriculture, in terms of economic activities, right? So in spite of climate being a unifying factor, monsoon is showing inter-regional disparities. Monsoon is showing inter-regional disparities. Number 3. Yes, culture is a unifying factor, but what about the individual languages which is present in each of the states? What about the different religions which is present in each of the states? Religions and languages is increasing the regional diversities of people. Regional diversity of people. At the same time, it is also leading to a lot of interstate disputes and communal tension. Example, here you can take down some example also. See, these are all your own innovations. It's up to you. You can write anything that comes to your mind in terms of your GS, current affairs preparation. You can write here the Citizenship Amendment Act tried to divide India, and especially the Indian minorities, especially not the Indian minorities, especially the minorities, in terms of religion-based divisions. This further infuriated communal tensions amongst the locally present Muslim communities. Are you understanding the way I'm writing this? Because what did the Citizenship Amendment Act do? It tried to get people, 6 religious minorities people from 3 So what about the other religion communities, especially the Muslim community people? They will feel bad. So how will they feel when they are within India? So that will obviously lead to communal tension. So this is one such example that you can write. All right. And then number four, you can write about certain historical reasons. You can write like this. Delhi has been historically, not all the regions of India have been unified under a single empire. Only very few times the empire has been unified. The entire country has been unified. Like under who? Once it was done under Maurya, and then it was done under the Guptas, and later it was done by, maybe for a brief period of time, it was done by Harsha, and then it was done by the British, Mughals and British, right? So it was not like, and that to understand something, all the dynasties I've mentioned here, it was not like a complete unification, a major unification, complete unification for Embatitilla, because the South Indian kingdoms were operating more or less like a solo kingdom, right? So historically also, there were many regional autonomous units, especially in the south. There were many regional autonomous units, especially in the south. You can add one more point to it, and also excessive power concentration was there in the Delhi. Delhi was always seen as a power center. Previously, before this, what was the power center? Maybe you can say Rajgir was the power center. And then Delhi became the power center. But there was no power center with regard to the southern parts of India. That's equally bad. But again, so you can add this also as a negative point, because of which the southern people always felt alienated from the administrative processes. You can write some examples for regional autonomous units. Example, Vijayanagara Kingdom, the mighty Cholas. Okay, so these are some of the regional autonomous units which you can write. Okay, right. The next point is number 5. We can write about British colonial units. Even in the British colonialism, understand very, very carefully, not all the country, the entire country was not brought under the British colonialism, because they were what is called as princely states. Princely states, at least for their internal affairs, more or less, they functioned as independent units. As long as you are not disturbing me and you are very well accepting my suzerainty, you can do whatever you want. Externally, I will control you. Externally, with regard to any wars, you cannot do. You are still under me, but internally, you can manage anything. That's what the British told the princely states. And therefore, British colonialism, there were some small, minor independent units in the form of princely states. Also, the British policies was entirely for the advantage of the British administrative system, and their goal was never to unify India politically. Their goal was not to unify India politically. Their goal was to have an administrative ease of their administration, ease of administration. So that also, in a way, directly did not contribute to unification with respect to India. Finally, the next one, number 6, economic factors. With respect to economics, only certain pockets are very, very industrialized and educated, and they act as individual advanced economies or economic units. They act as advanced economies in the entire nation. Like example is Maharashtra, example is Tamil Nadu, example is Karnataka. Industrialized, educated, advanced economies. Economically, they are advanced. What about the rest of the country? What about rest of India? There is a very, very huge inter-regional disparity which we are facing. Okay, so economic factors is also another thing that you can write up. And the next one is economic factors, advanced economies, rest of India. The next one is, you can write about mineral resource distribution. Mineral resource distribution. in spite of states like Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, uh, parts of Odisha, very, very rich in terms of mineral resources. But what about their human resource? Human resource is lacking. So this we call it as a resource crisis region or a resource cursed region. And there are many states who do not have much or they lack the mineral resource. Best example is Kerala. But in spite of it, the human development is very, very high. In a way, the resource distribution is also not advantageous with respect to the entire nation, and that also creates a lot of inter-regional disparity. Okay. Then you can write about the various new age problems, like what you call it as climate change. Climate change is affecting states like Assam, Bihar, Uttarakhand, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and Maharashtra. Now, these three are the most affected states, and these three are followed by that. Especially, they say that the city of Chennai and Bombay are the most climatically affected cities with respect to India. And again, Kerala is also one among them. So, in fact, this was said by one of the recent documents, which I do not remember. So, Assam, Bihar, Uttarakhand. So, climate change have been very, very cruel, have been very, very having very significant changes, especially with respect to these states. Therefore, even in terms of new age problems like climate change, there is a huge disparity that certain states are facing, and therefore, this is also a distinguishing or a differentiating factor. This is also another centrifugal factor. Okay, so these are some of the factors, and because of these factors, as a part of conclusion, you can write this. Because of these centrifugal factors, regionalism is taking a forefront and is taking a step ahead than your national forces of integration. Regionalism aanu pradhanam. It's not national integration, or it is not nationalism. It is regionalism, which is taking a much more important position than nationalism. Therefore, regional consciousness is far increasing amongst the people of the nation. Now, I have to describe you two things. First thing is, there are two topics. One is geographical basis of Indian federalism. Adinayum namakku these topics you can write. Geographical basis of Indian federalism. Why regional consciousness? This term is also regionalism, regional consciousness is there. Why regional consciousness is increasing amongst the people of the country? You can write about these centrifugal forces and say these are the reasons why regional consciousness is increasing amongst the people of the country. Okay, got this point clear? We are focusing only with respect to examination എങ്ങനെയാണോ ചോദിക്കുന്നത്, or examination if one or the other way comes, you should be able to answer. Is this clear? Tell me this, is this point of how you can use this for two questions, I mean two topics, not questions, two topics. Is that point clear? Can we go ahead to the next topic? Okay. Okay, fine then. The next one is, the next one is, okay, the next one is states reorganization. This is another topic which is given as a part of your syllabus. But state reorganization, what you are going to read is this. I'm just going to give you the topic. You take down state reorganization and take down what I'm asking you to take down. That is your cabinet mission plan. I am not going to describe this because this, first of all, divided India into category A, B, C, and D states. The next one is I have my JVP commission. I have my Fazil Ali commission. I have JVP commission. I have Fazil Ali commission. So these are some things like either how initially Poti Sri Ramalu wanted to form Andhra Pradesh. How was the rest of the states got formed after that? How was there some regional aspirations ചിലയിടത്തിലെ importance കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട് ചിലയിടത്തിനാണെങ്കിലും it's about language as an important character. For example, if I'm talking about Maharashtra getting split into Gujarat and Maharashtra, so this Bombay province got split into Gujarat and Maharashtra. What character was given importance? Language was given importance. One place Marathi was spoken and the other place Gujarati was spoken. So therefore, what was given predominance here? This is a classic example of how language was given predominance. Then if I'm talking about example number one, how language was given predominance, anything you can write. You can even write about Punjab and Haryana. In Haryana, in Punjab, mostly Punjabi was spoken, and in Haryana, Delhi, this Hindi speaking belt. So Hindi population, it's again very kind of a language was given importance here, but here also administration was also given important, and that is why Chandigarh was made as a common capital. All right, and then administratively, you can say Telangana splitting from AP. Similarly, for the sake of tribal importance, I have my example of northeastern states. Because of not tribal, it would be better if you put it as ethnic identities. Okay, so broadly, and similarly with respect to strategic importance, what do I have? I have Andaman and Nicobar, right? So broadly, these are the things that you would be writing with respect to states reorganization. All of this is a part of your polity, and so I'm not going to describe this. Not describing geography. From the aspect of geography, this is what you should be writing, how individually the states are getting split. What is more important is, remember that part where I told you how demand for new states is a problem, how it is a blessing, and how it is a problem. That we shall discuss in detail. Demand for new states. So the point is, with respect to state reorganization, you have to explain this historically, how different commissions have been set up. In a language in a states divide administration divide. So these things you have to broadly give some example, maybe draw a map. All right, now coming to demand for new states. Demand for new states. Demand for new states. Just a second, let me try to get a map for you. If there is some sort of a doubt or anything that you need to clarify, you can ask me right now. Meantime, I'll try to get a map for you guys. Meanwhile, let me tell you that two, three things, that is your not some, many notes are pending. As soon as the class gets over, not today, but tomorrow onwards, I will be sending some of your printed material in your group. The second thing is, I have been repeating this again and again. Please, for the sake of me, do not lose what you have written. Whatever that you have written, do not lose it. Save it up. All right, um, and and if there is any other doubts pertaining to anything that we have dealt, you can ask me. Maybe when I am in the office, or I have given you my personal number also, you can contact me there. Is that clear? I'm trying to get a picture. Is that clear, everybody? Do not lose whatever you have written. It's pretty important. I will share you something and tell me if the screen is visible. Can you see my paint? Yes, right now. Can you see my paint screen?
Yeah, ma'am.
No.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Okay. Okay. So first thing, look at this portion. Let us start with something that's burning. Actually, what Mayawati, uh, yes, you know Mayawati, no, that female back in Uttar Pradesh, she has been demanding for the split of this portion of Uttar Pradesh for a long period of time. So one thing is, let me clear this. How do I undo this? How do I undo this?
is on the top portion, extreme top. Extreme top. സേവിന്റെ നേരെ ഇപ്പുറത്ത്.
Yes, yes. I think. Okay, perfect. So, right. So look at this. Look at this portion of Uttar Pradesh. Starting if you look at this, Uttar Pradesh is to divide it into 4 parts. Please take some running notes. UP is the first thing that we are going to take up. So, demand for new states. The first state that we are taking up is UP. Harit Pradesh, Purvanchal, Bagelkhand, Bundelkhand, 4 parts. Harit Pradesh is the westernmost part of Uttar Pradesh. Now, if you remember whatever I have dealt when we were teaching about agriculture, I told you western part of Uttar Pradesh is comparatively well developed because of its closeness to Delhi. Because of its closeness to Delhi, Western Uttar Pradesh is comparatively well developed when compared to the eastern parts of Uttar Pradesh. So, Harit Uttar Pradesh is a divide the economically well developed region. And they wanted it to be as much as close to Delhi, and so that they can get all the advantages of Delhi. So this is not accepted by the rest of the people because they wanted, they do not want to leave one of the most economically profitable region of Uttar Pradesh. Okay. The next thing is, let's talk about Purvanchal. Now, if you are talking about Purvanchal, now this is a region which is actually comprising of the most of the rocky terrain of Uttar Pradesh, like Shivalik's portion of Uttar Pradesh, whatever is there, it is in this portion. Okay, so it's comprising of the easternmost part of Uttar Pradesh. It is comprising of the easternmost part of Uttar Pradesh, and it is having a lot of rocky terrain also, Purvanchal. And when we are talking about the 2 things, that is Bundelkhand and Bagelkhand. Let's first of all talk about Bundelkhand. Remember, whenever I tell you about the terms Bundelkhand and Vidarbha, they are extremely drought-prone regions. Bundelkhand comprises of not just Uttar Pradesh, it also comprises of parts of Madhya Pradesh. The same applies to Bagelkhand also. It comprises of parts of Madhya Pradesh. Bagelkhand and Bundelkhand is a mixture of UP plus MP. Who in their right mind, how will Madhya Pradesh allow, okay, you take some part of my state, I'm happy to give it to you? No, Madhya Pradesh will never accept it. So from a political aspect, from a political point of view, since it comprises of the state of Pradesh also, some portion of Madhya Pradesh also, it is not politically possible to divide this. Okay, that is one point. But administratively, this ingane oru divide cheythu kanna, it will be good for one reason, that is, since this region is a very drought prone region, we can create some governmental policies so that to remove the probabilities of further drought attacking this region. Okay, since it's already a drought prone region, ingane oru Bundelkhand region aayittu nammal divide cheyyumbod namakku focused attention kodukkan pattum. So that's something that you have to write. We can give a focused administrative attention in terms of the drought prone areas of Bundelkhand, and we can create some climate resilient agricultural practices for these regions, which are very, very impoverished agriculture wise. Climate resilient agricultural practices can be given. Okay, so that is the common thing that you can write with Bundelkhand and Bagelkhand. Then take a look at Bodoland. That's another problematic region. Bodoland is another problematic region. Now, Assam, one section of the people, they want to divide Bodo land with respect to Assam state. They wanted to divide Bodo land from Assam state. Now understand something here. We need to talk about the Bodo Land Territorial Council. The Bodo Land Territorial Council. 5th and 6th schedule, respect the constitution of the country, 5th and 6th schedule have given what a lot of regional autonomy with respect to with respect to administration of scheduled and tribal areas. This is right. So in that aspect, the government has created an autonomous district council that you have read in your polity textbook. An autonomous district council was created in the form of if they are demanding for more for creating as a separate state, it's not viable. It is not add also because that will because tribes they'll also ask for more and more divisions. From the perspective of national integration, division of, or you can say creation of a state, of a separate state like Bodoland, it is not politically viable and it is not an intelligent move from the perspective of national integration. So what can be done? On the other hand, like we have already given regional autonomy for many of the scheduled and the tribal areas with respect to 5th and the 6th schedule. What can be done in the future is more regional autonomy can be given, but that region should be a part of Assam state. It should not be created as a separate state. Why are we not creating it as a separate state? Because too many tribes in this region are asking for more and more division of states. Angana poi kazhinja, this entire northeast will be balkanized into so many individual states, and that is not good with respect to the integration, national integration of India. All right, then take a look at Vidarbha. Take a look at Vidarbha. Just a second. With respect to Vidarbha, it's quite simple because I have explained to you many times ago, like Amaravati, Nagpur divisions, Amaravati and the Nagpur divisions of Maharashtra are the most impoverished regions, or not impoverished, it's climatically a very unstable region, and it is prone to a lot of farmers' suicides because of the interior location. With respect to Deccan Plateau, it is located very, very interior wise. Therefore, it is experiencing a very continental climate. It is experiencing a very continental climate. And therefore, highly prone to climatic vagaries. It is highly prone to climatic disturbances, climatic vagaries. Therefore, separating Vidarbha from Maharashtra from the perspective of administration, from the perspective of resource distribution, it has been demanded by a lot of groups. But the point is, either divide, will it be able to sustain it on its own? Any state, if you're going to divide it, please tell me if I'm going a bit fast for your writing speed, because I need to slow down otherwise. I'm just repeating one point in many number of ways. Is it fine? Is the space okay for you? I think it is fine. Fine. Let's say a state, when you're going to divide it, it should be a viable administrative unit. It should be a sustainable, a self-sustainable unit. It should not be like I have too much of my resources per se. I do not have a lot of human resources to sustain my state. That there's no point in dividing it. It should be a viable administrative unit. It should be a self-sustainable unit. It should be able to drive its economy on its own. It should be able to drive or sustain itself on its own. Vidarbha, is it that sustainable? Is a big question mark. It's heavily dependent on economic resources that it gets from Bombay. All right. So to avoid that, Vidarbha has been given some sort of autonomy as a part of constitution. Regional autonomy has been given. Some regional specific policies have been framed by the Maharashtrian government, and that's a good move. Divide state sustain that's a big question mark. All right. Then coming to this portion which has been divided, that is Telangana. Telangana is a self-sustaining unit. It has Hyderabad. It has Hyderabad to sustain it. And since the area of Andhra Pradesh is very, very large, dividing Andhra into two units is actually administratively wise also, because Hyderabad is here. Remember, this was the boundary of that previous state of Andhra Pradesh. This was a very huge state. For administration, the capital was somewhere here. How can, from this region, how can they reach the three corners? Administratively, it was a very difficult point. So that's why this division is actually pretty good also. And now, because of this division, the very impoverished region of Rayalaseema, that could also be concentrated by the new administrative center which has been coming up in this portion of Amaravati. So what happened right now? A lot of regional developmental growth centers have been set up in the region of Rayalaseema. Example, Sri City. Sri City is a kind of a manufacturing CES unit. It's a CES unit, and that was set up in the Chittoor district of Rayalaseema. Chittoor district of Rayalaseema. Chittoor is a very poor district, but after this setting up of Sri City, it's quite improving. Okay, Sri City is somewhere in the border of Chennai and Tirupati, that region. That's my Sri City region, CES region, very important industrialized manufacturing unit. Now, that is because of this division of Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, concentration has been given to previously, let me clear the sink. Okay. Right. So previously, these portions, I have portions of Kakinada. So these portions, Srikakulam, these portions were neglected by the state of Andhra Pradesh. Divide some of the southern districts of Andhra Pradesh and some of the northernmost districts of Andhra Pradesh were also given a lot of importance. Seen Pushpa movie? Allu Arjun's Pushpa movie? At least heard of it? Pushpa movie kandittundo? What was the important issue with respect to Pushpa movie? Yes, no. Red Sanders? Yes. Illegal mining of red sanders was the important aspect. Red Sanders. Red Sanders na Malayalam എന്താ പറയാ? I don't know. Red Sanders.
Chandanam.
Okay, Red Sanders was the uh, was the important point, right? The smuggling of Red Sanders was the important point. Now, all this Pushpa movie happened in Chittoor district. The slang of Telugu that they spoke is something that is very, very different from the Telugu which they speak in the general parts. So that is because of the influence of Tamil on Telugu, on that dialect of Chittoor district. So that's a very, very impoverished district, not much developed. ഇങ്ങനെ സ്മഗ്ലിങ്ങും പിന്നെ മറ്റു കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ അവിടെ സംഭവിക്കുന്നത്, not that developed district. And again, a slight deviation of topic, Red Sanders is going to be very, very important for your prelims. Make sure that you know some things about your Red Sanders, right? Now, take a look at Saurashtra. Take a look at Saurashtra. This is another region which is like a lot of people are demanding for Saurashtra. Why? Linguistically, the language which is spoken by the Saurashtrians, Saurashtra, that dialect is very different from Gujarati. The dialect is very, very different from Gujarati. So because of linguistic reason, they are demanding for a different state. So this is purely because of local demands of a separate or a dialect linguistically different from the state. So they wanted that to be a separate Saurashtra state. Okay, and if you look at this region, I am having some very, very important regions. Like I have very important trading spots in this region, and therefore Gujarat is not ready to leave this region. Gujarat is not very ready to. I have a lot of pharmaceutical companies. I have a lot of petrochemical industries, and therefore Gujarat is not ready to leave behind this region, but is a purely linguistic demand, and this is not likely to be as accepted by Gujarat state also, right? Maru Pradesh. If you look at this region, it's a Marusthali region with respect to Rajasthan. Marusthali region ആണ്, കുറേ deserts ആണ് ഇവിടെ ഉള്ളത്, except for this small portion which is getting so much advantage in terms of my Indira Gandhi Canal project. One section of the Maru Pradesh region, it's actually very much desert region. So it's not wise to split Rajasthan into Maru Pradesh. So that's about Maru Pradesh. One half of Maru Pradesh is very developed. I mean, it's having good developed, but at least it's having good agricultural development because of the influence of Satluj Yamuna link canal system and Indira Gandhi Canal area project. But another portion of the Maru Pradesh is completely Marusthali region. It's completely a desert region, and it is not wise to divide Rajasthan into these two parts. Down south, I have Tulunadu, Kodagu. Not at all advisable to divide this. Why? Tulunadu, why? You've heard of Tulu dialect, no? Heard of Tulu dialect? Tulu is a small set of community, Dravidian language. It's completely different from Kannada, and it is very different from Tamil also. It's a mix of Tamil and Kannada. So that's Tulu, and a bit of Malayalam also for that matter. So Tulu is something, Tulunadu is something that they have been demanding, and this is also purely linguistic demand. Then there is something called as something in this portion, they wanted to divide it into Konganadu. Okay, Kongu Nadu. Now that is a portion, um, some portions of southern portions of Karnataka they are demanding, some portions of southern Karnataka they are demanding, some portions of western portions of Kerala also they are demanding under this new territory which is Kongu Nadu, but that is also not going to happen because all of these three states will never give land from their own states. Okay, Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, very politically they are very strong, and they would never give even an inch of a state for the creation of Kongu Nadu. But Kongu Nadu is and what do you call it? It's like an industrialized unit on it. It's a very industrialized region, very strong industries like iron and steel belt, very strong industries like aluminum plants are located in this region, and plantation units are present in this region. And therefore, these three states will never ever accept the formation of Kongu Nadu. All right. So that is how there are many divisions. Now, these are the different individual units which are demanding what new states with respect to our country. Now we will analyze about the critical aspects of the formation of new states. Now we will analyze about the critical aspects with regard to formation of new states. All right, let me share a new screen with you. All right. The first thing is, what are the various reasons which have been cited by the different states? Why are they demanding new states, and what are the broad reasons of why they are demanding new states? Excuse me. The first thing is physiographic conditions. Physiographic conditions. Example, I've given you one example, which is about a Marustali region. Another example is physiographic condition vechittu, what can we say? One second. Physiographic condition vechittu, we can say that in a way, Uttarakhand was separated from Uttar Pradesh on a physiographic basis because Uttarakhand is having too much of rugged topography. Their requirement is completely different. So it's completely Himalayas. So Uttarakhand was divided from Uttar Pradesh not on the basis of language, not for administrative conveniences, purely geographical reasons, physiographic conditions. Physiographically, that state, that particular region was separate, was different. Okay, so some of the physiographic distinctiveness, uniqueness of a particular region, because of that, they will demand new state. Okay, two examples I've given you. One is the recent demand, which is of Marustali region. The second one is the demand for that was already done. That is the case of Uttarakhand. Number two, levels of economic development. Levels of economic development. What is that thing? Ladakh, on the basis of physiographic condition, Ladakh was not on, yes, it in a way it is, but more of religion condition. That region was religiously, it was having a lot of Buddhist. Religion was also very important criteria for dividing Ladakh. All right. So economic, coming to the economic conditions. Coming to economic conditions, maybe there is a lack of industries. Maybe there is a lack of, or there is a lot of agrarian distress. Lack of industries, lack of industries. I can say the demand for Purvanchal was one such thing. Similarly, we can say see, there are two things. Lack of industries can also be a reason. When there is too much of industries, also there can be another reason. Too much of industry, so why should we share? Why should we give our money to your part of your state? So like that only Hyderabad got divided. All that IT industry which was located in Hyderabad, that people felt, why should we share our economic resource with that rest of Andhra Pradesh? So Hyderabad, I mean not Hyderabad, Telangana, because of Hyderabad's IT industry. Then the next one was the Saurashtra demand. In short, there were a lot of, apart from linguistic reason, there is a lot of industries which is located in the Saurashtrian belt. All right. Similarly, then if I'm talking about number 3, resource criteria. Resource criteria. This was another reason. The newly demanded state, the newly created state should be resource wise, it should be economically sustainable, it should be self-sustaining unit, it should be a viable unit. If there is no resource, what is the point in dividing it? And that is why dividing Marustali region is not advisable, because resource wise that region is going to be impoverished. It is not advisable to divide my Bundelkhand region. Why? Because it's not going to be that region is not going to self-sustain on its own. It will essentially depend on the other neighboring parts. Vidarbha, it's not going to self-sustain on its own. So there are a lot of resources you should focus on. Then size of the state. Very large state has to be divided. Like what happened with the case of AP, Arunachal, Andhra Pradesh. I have ethnicity as a factor. Bodoland is asking for separation from Assam because of ethnic tribal issues. Broadly, these are the different conditions why many states are demanding new states. So what are the advantages of creating such new states? What are the disadvantages of creating such state? Or you can say critical analysis. Critical analysis. The first advantages, just a second. The first advantage is states become smaller, so administratively it is becoming easier. Administrative ease. State is becoming smaller, but it is easily manageable from the point of view of administration. Number 2, I will have better management of mineral resources, human resources, and economic resources. I will have better management of mineral resources, human resources, and economic resources. I can have a concentrated economic model. I can have a concentrated economic model for the newly created state, thereby using which I can reduce regional disparity. And because of that, I can have a more economically developed state than what was before. Or you can say there will be faster economic growth. I can have a concentrated economic model. I can have because of which I can reduce regional disparities, and because of which I can achieve faster economic growth. Politically, that state will have what do you say? That state will have a greater voice in the national issues. politically that state will have a greater voice. Suppose let's say Rayalaseema, Telangana was, let's say Andhra Pradesh was there, and Telangana was previously a part of Andhra Pradesh. So if Andhra Pradesh raised say 10 number of issues in the parliament, out of which Telangana's issues can be 1 or 2. But Telangana itself could represent itself in parliament and it can raise its own problems in the parliament. So politically, its voice would have become greater. Okay. On the other hand, what are the disadvantages? There will be a lot of cases where a lot of issues will arise, a lot of interstate issues will arise. Interstate issues will arise between the newly formed state and the parent state. In terms of water disputes, power distribution disputes, boundary disputes in the Matram boundary, or in how many districts will come under my province, how many jillas will come under my region, how many will you take? So there will be interstate boundary disputes, interstate river disputes, interstate power distribution dispute. Then let's say a lot of divisions like this happen. Then again, regionalism will take a bigger step than nationalism. Regionalism will be on a much larger scale than nationalism. The next thing is the people will feel divided. National integration will become a big question mark. A national integration will become a big question mark, or in other words, you can say the thought process of the founding fathers of the Constitution, the thought process of the founding fathers of the Constitution, the idea of India, the idea that is India, the united India, will be definitely affected. Constitutionally, it will lead to a lot of problems, because people will start thinking only from regional perspective. There will be no national perspective to any of the issues. Suppose let's say that something from an example we can say, or I can say like this. First of all, the point is one dominant community will emerge. One dominant community will emerge. Like what? Like for example, let's say Kongu Nadu. Kongu Nadu, the establishment of Kongu Nadu in Tamil Nadu, in that regions of Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, predominantly there is a community called Kongu Nadars or something, and this community will be the predominant community with regard to, if such a state gets formed, this community will be the most predominant community. And therefore that's why we say that when there is a establishment of a new state, there will be one dominant community which will come up. Even in the parliament, what we have said before, now we are just slightly twisting it. Even in the national state, in the parliament, suppose let's say that Andhra Pradesh was there as a united united state, okay, and then it became AP and Telangana. Now here the number of MPs which will be sent by the United State of Andhra Pradesh will be more, whereas AP and Telangana split, the number of MPs of AP will reduce, and then there will be number of MPs from Telangana, right? This is what it will happen. So what will happen is, politically, if suppose let's say that BJP, okay, BJP wants to satisfy the people in Andhra Pradesh, they will say, okay, Andhra Pradesh is demanding something, let us please give them. Why? Because these people are giving us so many number of MPs. So if Andhra Pradesh people are demanding something, let us give them. That's a very strong state, that's a very vast state, that's a very populous state. Uttar Pradesh, they say that Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh decide the politics of the center. Uttar Pradesh is a very hot spot. Recently, when Uttar Pradesh election came up, the victory for BJP in UP was very, very important, because UP, what happens in UP is an example of what happens in the entire northern part of India. UP is an extension of the entire Hindi belt. I'm repeating, UP is an extension of the entire Hindi belt. What happens in UP will have a repercussions, consequences in that entire Hindi belt. Therefore, ഒരു ലാർജർ സ്റ്റേറ്റിനായി കഴിയുമ്പോൾ അവിടെ നമ്പർ ഓഫ് MPs കൂടുതലായി കാണും. And therefore, from a political viewpoint, you can interpret like this. From a political viewpoint, more is the size of the state, more will be the voice of the state in terms of the number of MPs in parliament. So that's politically, it's an advantage. But the same thing can be interpreted differently also. Politically, when the state is divided, that divided state can give region specific demands in the parliament. Region specific demands in the parliament. Both are correct. Both are correct. And pros and cons, random, we have to write. We have to write both the things. All right. So these are broadly the pros and cons with regard to division. One more thing. More and more ethnic demands of Northeast, if I'm accepting more and more ethnic demands of Northeast, if I'm accepting more and more division of the Northeastern states, then some of the foreign elements like what? Just a second. Some of the foreign elements, like for example, China, terrorist groups or insurgent groups of Bangladesh, and Myanmar, can intervene into the internal affairs of Northeast, and they can manipulate the people. They can manipulate the mindset of the people in the northeastern parts of India. Therefore, we, as much as possible, we should make the Northeast people stand united. We should not accept such regional, small regional demands of the Northeast. As much as possible, try to make them united as much as possible, because otherwise divided, once we are divided, once there are too many divisions in Northeast, what will happen? Chinese elements will come into the country. Arunachal Pradesh, Navaru section of Arunachal Pradesh, they will start demanding. Similarly, insurgent groups of Bangladesh and Myanmar, they will try to utilize the divisions amongst the people in the Northeast. Okay, so these are the pros and the cons with regard to division of individual states. Clear, Ananda? Is this clear? Only then we can move to the next topic. Okay, so let's move to the next one. Let's move to the next one, that is, okay, so let's move to the next one, that is, why are we speaking about Indian Ocean region? What is so special about Indian Ocean region? Just a second. Why are we speaking so much about Indian Ocean? What is the basis of geopolitics of Indian Ocean region. Quick question, was this done in international relations classes? Yes, ആണ് പറയുന്നത്. So I'm sure they would have taken about strings of pearl theory, diamond necklace theory, and all of that. Now, yes, right? So even that is what you should be reading here also. In fact, I'm sure your IR teacher might have dealt so much than what I am going to teach you, but that's exactly what you should be reading. Things about IR, what is happening with Indo-Pacific belt, Indo-Pacific region. How is US, maybe you can take whatever I'm telling you. How is US interpreting Indo-Pacific region, and how is China interpreting the Indo-Pacific region? Maybe you can take this down. Indo-Pacific na vachittu, how is US interpreting the Indo-Pacific region, and how is China interpreting the Indo-Pacific region? And broadly, why is the Indian Ocean region quite important? So let me give you just a small brief about this topic. It's basically about international relations. How is India interacting with some of her neighbors? International relations, geopolitics of South Asia is very closely related to geopolitics of Indian Ocean region. So the first thing is, why is Indian Ocean region so important? Number one, India has got a very long coastline, and because of that coastline, she exercises a very dominant position with regard to Indian Ocean region. And therefore, whatever happens in Indian Ocean region is definitely going to affect India as a country. And then that brings me to the next question. What is happening in the Indian Ocean region? What is happening in the Indian Ocean region? The first thing is China. Growing geopolitics, growing intervention of China with respect to Indian Ocean region. Like what? Like string of pearls theory. Like what China has been doing with Spratly Islands, DOU Islands. I'm not sure if the spelling is correct. Let me just quickly cross check it. Spelling not correct alla, I know for sure that is not right, but I don't know the correct spelling also. DOU. DIAYOU. Is that what I have written? Okay, that's correct then. DIAYOU, which is also called as Senkaku Islands. Spratly Islands, DOU Islands, or Senkaku Islands with respect to 9-dash line. What is the first point that I told you? This is the second thing. The first thing is from what are the recent things which is happening? How China is interacting with. How is, let me quickly switch on my video. How is China interacting with Indian Ocean region? So how is China interacting with Indian Ocean region, Barambo? What are the problems, or what are the increased problems created by China in the Indian Ocean region, point number one. And what are the problems? China has been encircling India by setting up new ports right from Africa in Madagascar. China has another port in Pakistan, which is what port in Pakistan? You can check it. You can check about the your string of pearls theory. In fact, there you'll be getting a lot of information. I'm just talking about string of pearls. String of pearls is like setting up of various ports all across the Indian Ocean, starting right from Africa, Pakistan, down south, Hambantota in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh, right up to Indonesia. So entirely, if you see, the entire parts of India is encircled by Chinese ports. So this is so that whatever India is trying to plan with respect to strategically, if India is trying to plan, China knows it. So this is a way of encircling India, string of pearls. In contrast to this, there is another theory called diamond necklace, which India is encircling, India is counter encircling diamond necklace. India is counter encircling Chinese port with respect to her own ports. Try to analyze more of this. Is all basically not geography. The IR basically international relations, right? And then another thing is what China has been trying to do is a lot of disputes with respect to South China Sea and East China Sea. South China Sea and East China Sea. In South China Sea, what is she doing? China is fighting with Philippines, Vietnam, such countries. In the East China Sea, China is in a fight with Japan. And then China is in fight with Russia. And that, all those fight which I have mentioned to you is basically your 9 dash line. Is basically your 9 dash line. China says those regions are belonging to me. But in effect, actually, those regions are also a part of these countries. Like, for example, Vietnam, Philippines, Japan, Russia, and so on. The next thing is, because of so much problems that is being created by China, USA came to Indo-Pacific region, and we have a beautiful tie with US and India, and that is how Quad relationship came into picture. Quad and heard of AUKUS? Quad and AUKUS? Both are regional centers, or not centers, regional groupings formed to counter China. Okay, so in a way, these are new age platforms. These are new age platforms for India to interact with some of the developed countries of the world, so as to protect her strategic interest in Indian Ocean region. I repeat, Quad and AUKUS are regional groupings formed to counter China. Number two, it is in a way that using these regional groupings, India interacts with or have a very strategic relationship with some of the developed economies of the world, like Japan, Australia, USA, and UK, so that her interest in the Indian Ocean region are not affected by China. Okay, so that's another aspect. The next thing is how the Indian Ocean region has been seen by USA. So USA says, in fact, previously USA discusses that it is an Asia Pacific region. That entire region, imagine this in your mind, the entire region starting from Indian Ocean to up to the Atlantic belt. If I have to draw a map, it comes something like this. This is my Indian Ocean region. This is Australia. I have my South America and North America here. This is my Pacific belt. This is my Pacific Ocean. Previously, whatever documents that USA used to release, strategic documents that USA used to release, this region was called as Asia Pacific region. But right now, there has been a strategic shift in terms of the dialogues between USA and India. Whenever USA talks about this region, right from India to up to USA, whenever you talk about it, the region is named as Indo-Pacific. Previously, it was called as Asia Pacific. That shows, this transition shows how USA views, or how USA views the importance of the Indian Ocean region. All right. So, and how China views Indian Ocean region is, you have to interpret the 9-dash line problems. Many parts of the region around Pacific Ocean as well as Indian Ocean, China has been demanding that those regions are belonging to me, but that's not the real case. So this is how one way of discussing Indian Ocean region. Other way of discussing Indian Ocean region is pre-Cold War, post-Cold War. Pre-Cold War, it was a bipolar world. Basically, I'm discussing completely with regard to international relations, nothing more than that. It's a very general topic on a bipolar world. So in that bipolar world, I'm talking about pre-Cold War condition. Pre-Cold War condition, there was a bipolar world. How India interacted with the world in terms of the pre-Cold War era. It was a bipolar world. There was Russia, there was USA, and we tried to balance both of this power. It was a balancing act. We belonged to the non-aligned movement. We were a part of the third world countries. We were not aligned either with Russia. We were not aligned either with USA. So we were trying to balance between Russia and USA. And then what happened? Something happened after the post-Cold War era. Something happened, that is my Soviet Union disintegration. And with which we started to two things happened. One is Soviet Union disintegration, and number two is the economic reforms which happened in India. Both happened somewhere in the complete crisis or post-Cold War era. Something happened very, very significantly in 1990s, which tried to, because of these two things, Soviet Union disintegration and economic reforms, India shifted her policies. We shifted from, please take this down, we shifted from country-specific grouping to issue-specific grouping. This was a major transition that we did. We were not aligned. Okay, for we are friends with USA, we should be always friends with USA. We are friends with Russia, we should be always friends with Russia. No. Sometimes even in the Ukraine crisis, if you have understood this, there was a recent resolution which was passed in UN General Assembly as well as in the UN Security Council, which was what do you say? Which was vetoed by Russia. Which was vetoed by Russia. Understand, we are very much in. We are very close friends with USA for most of the things, but when Ukraine, Russia ചെയ്തത് ശരിയാണോ തെറ്റാണോ എന്ന ഒരു resolution വന്നപ്പോ, we did not participate in the voting. Why? Because traditionally from 1970s we have been in friends with Russia. Russia supported us in during the 1965 and during the 1971 war also, and in an effect Russia was always providing a backward support to us, and we wanted to support Russia in this issue, and that's the reason why we did not participate in the Ukraine crisis. So what are you understanding here? The understanding, the general understanding is we have shifted from a country specific grouping to an issue specific grouping. Sometimes for certain issues we'll be friends with USA, for certain issues we'll be friends with Russia, for certain issues we'll be friends with China also. So it's always a country specific grouping. We moved on to an issue specific grouping after the post Cold War situation. And another third event which happened during the post Cold War situation is rise of China. And now we are not a bipolar world, we are a multipolar world. And these are the different aspects of geopolitics which you should be thinking about when you are attempting any questions with respect to geopolitics of India. Any doubts that you have here? Again, I'm repeating, this is something that's purely current affairs based, and this is something that's very closely related to your international affairs. But how can you write geographical answer? Maybe in here and there you try to bring some theory, which is your Rimland theory, Heartland theory, or your Rachel's theory of organic state. Anything that you have doubts here? More or less any oru topic under cross border terrorism, but that also it's like completely whatever has been discussed in internal security. So we are winding up the lectures of geography as my part is concerned. This is the end of it. Anything that bothers you, anything that bothers you at any point of time in your preparation, you leave CSIP or I leave CSIP, any point of your time, if you have anything that bothers you, I'm just a text away. It's always there. You can text me, you can write answers to me and then text me back. I am here to help you. A, B, please do not lose your written notes. Your written notes is something that's very valuable. So that's something that I would like to say. So my part of geography is over. It's been as I always say, I love teaching. No matter our interactions might be minimal, I would not have talked to you much, but I know and I feel that I have a personal connect with each and every one of you. You might have slept in my class, you might have not taken notes in my class, that's secondary, but I genuinely care for each and every one of you, and I respect each and every one of you. All right, anything that bothers you, not just with geography but even with another subject, maybe art and culture, maybe quality, you can ask me. And if there is something that's specific to geography, it's always like you can come up to me and ask that. Okay, anything that you want to ask right now? Anything that is there? Any doubts with regard to this aspect of international relations that we have dealt? let me tell you, let me be very frank, all of this, whichever I've discussed here, it's kind of current affairs, Anna. So you have to brush up your current affairs to understand whatever I've written down here. All right. But anything that bothers you, anything that you need to ask me, maybe put it as a separate message or something. And if everything is fine, we will wind up the class. As I always say, it's been a pleasure teaching you. It's always been a pleasure teaching you, and every one of you, not just the 10 people who are here, but everyone at CSIP. So thank you. And I hope, yes, and I hope and believe that at least some portion of whatever we have dealt in geography might be helpful even for your prelims also. All right. Maybe if in your test, if you find, okay, this portion Binu ma'am has taught somewhere and I remember it, I would be grateful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you.